Bingo Blitz rules.
If your bingo has ads in it,
That's not a bingo.
if it doesn't have the coolest tournaments, mini games, and the most breathtaking design,
Nope, not a bingo.
if your bingo moment makes you feel so excited that you just want to burst in joy and scream out loud, bingo! Sorry, so you're playing...
Bingo Blitz? Now that's a bingo. Go for a world of excitement with Bingo Blitz, the #1 free bingo game. Download Bingo Blitz and play for free.
Now that's a bingo.
This episode is brought to you by Skinny Pop Popcorn. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Oh, so light and crunchy. Skinny Pop Original Popcorn is the snack you've been searching for. Made with just 3 simple ingredients: popcorn kernels, sunflower oil, and salt. Snacking never felt or tasted so good. Perfectly popped, endlessly delicious. Give yourself permission to snack and pick up Skinny Pop Original Popcorn today.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
And let's talk about what lessons about.
Let's hang out.
And let's listen to 2 lesbians shout.
Let's hang out.
Let's hang out.
Hey guys, welcome back to Let's Hang Out, a bi-coastal, bi-weekly podcast hosted by 2 lesbians. From the East Coast, I'm Ellie Brigida.
And from the West Coast, I'm Lee Holmes Foster.
And welcome to episode 17, Invisi-BI-lity. We are so excited to be joined by Nicole Pacent.
Nicole, thank you so much for joining us. Welcome to Let's Hang Out. They can't see you wave.
I know, but I had to wave. I don't know. It was in my body and I had to do it. Hi, I'm so glad to be here. Hi.
Wave vocally.
I'm waving vocally. Hi, guys.
Excellent. So for anyone who does not know Nicole already, Nicole is an actor, host, and activist. You might know her best as Aster in Anyone But Me way back in the day. She also was in I Hate Tommy Finch, which you could watch on Tello. And she's a real-life bisexual. They do exist. We're going to talk about it.
We do. We exist. We do. Yes.
And we had the chance to meet and talk with Nicole at Klexicon, and she is wonderful. We are so happy to have her on. I cannot say enough good things about Nicole Pacent, so without further ado, let's get it started.
Let's do it. Are you ready?
I am so ready. What a way to start. I'm all blushing and stuff.
We're gonna, throwback Wednesday. We record on Wednesdays. We're gonna throwback Wednesday a little bit back to Anyone But Me, because I think a lot of people are probably familiar with the web series and will remember you from it. So for anyone who doesn't know, Anyone But Me is a web series. It was created by Tina Sessa Ward about LGBT teens in New York City, and it started in 2008, right? And then ran for a while, came back after a while.
Yes, it was started by Tina Sessa Ward and Susan Miller, and Susan was one of the writer-producers of the first season of The L Word. And so when the 2 of them teamed up, it was right after The L Word had ended, and there was this, gap in lesbian programming, basically. I mean, because if you remember 10 years ago, there was many fewer options for we queers out there in the entertainment world than there are now. And also web was just becoming a thing. I mean, I told people I was in a web series and they're like, what is that? What are you doing there? The internet was just a thing that was happening for entertainment. It just started, and we actually came about during the writer's strike of 2008. So television writers were beginning to write for the web because they couldn't write for TV. And we were lucky enough to kind of come in at the perfect time when the market wasn't saturated by any stretch. Most notable lesbian show ever had just ended. And when television writers were looking for work. So it was great. Yeah, we just got in at the right time. So at that point, we only had enough money to do 1 season. So that's why it was kind of this, will we come back for next season?
Yeah.
And I call it the web series that keeps on giving. It's never quite ends.
So are you guys coming back? Is there going to be another season?
No. I can say that as definitively as I could ever say it now. I can't imagine there would be. I mean, we just did the lost scenes 2 years ago or whatever, so it's there's always people find ways of bringing us back, or who knows.
how did you get involved? Like, what was your path to joining the project, getting cast? How did you end up as Aster?
Well, I saw the audition come through the NYU listserv. I had just graduated from NYU, and they sent out sometimes like audition notices from production companies who were looking for basically younger looking people, right? I saw this come through, and I saw like, writer producer of the L Word, and I was like, oh my God. And so I immediately read the breakdown, and Aster was just me. Sometimes as an actor, you get these little nuggets of gold where you read something and you're like, oh my God, they're literally describing me. I must audition for this. Mm-hmm. And it was that for me with Aster. I went in for Aster, and it's funny because when I got called back, they read me and Rachel for both Vivian and Aster. So like I read for Vivian too, but it was just so obvious that I was Aster and she was Vivian. and so that's just how that went. My submission apparently came in late. I didn't know this, but the email was sent out late through NYU. So when I sent in my like headshot and resume, that came when they'd already cut off the applicant pool or whatever. I wrote this like super passionate email about how I wished that the show were around when I was a teenager and coming out, and just thanking them for the work that they were doing. And they read it and were like, I guess we should see this chick.
That's amazing. That is like some sort of twist of fate. I love it.
Yeah, it felt very, very meant to be. It definitely was meant to be. Yeah. Mm-hmm. So,
and at the time, I mean, you wrote this whole email. Did you feel like being a part of the series, did you know that how big of a deal it was going to be for a queer audience?
No. I mean, honestly, like we sat in Susan's like breakfast room area in her amazing apartment on Central Park West. Oh my God. We sat around as a cast and read through the first, I want to say it was like 4 episodes or something. And we kind of looked around at each other and we're like, we have something here. It feels special. You could kind of feel it in the air. Like, again, at that point, it was like web was such uncharted territory. Nobody had any idea kind of where it could even go, right? We didn't know who was going to find it. I certainly didn't know how it was going to be marketed. I don't think we knew at all the kind of international following it would get. That's been the most surprising and kind of miraculous thing to me, is like the continued international following of it. So no, I don't think we really did know. We knew we had something special, but we didn't know it was going to be this.
It's funny because it does, at this point, it's the kind of storyline where it's like, I feel like if it came out now, it would seem so overplayed, but like, at the time, I mean, it was huge, and I think it was so approachable and so relevant to so many people. Like, I remember watching it, because it was the same thing. It was my senior year of college, and so it was, I was dating, my now wife, but at the time, it was like her first real relationship and her first relationship with a woman since, like, kind of consciously coming out. So I think, like, a lot of those same issues, that Aster and Vivian were navigating, I think for a lot of queer people, those were just... It was there. It was cool to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it was cool to be a part of it that way because, like I said in my email, I mean, I really wished that it was around when I was coming out. Absolutely would have eaten that up. I mean, and we're talking, oh God, what year was that? Holy crap, I'm old. 2001? I mean, like, and it's just the landscape has changed so much. We didn't have that kind of content. You had to, like... I think I made a joke about this at one of the panels at Klexicon that, like, your only interaction with other gay people sometimes was, like, through MySpace and meeting up with somebody, like, who lived 2 hours away. Like, hoping they weren't an axe murderer, Like, I think it's... And I remember, getting Queer as Folk had come out at that point. And so I, like, gobbled up Queer as Folk on DVD. All the, like, random, lesbian movies and things. But the 5 of them, maybe. But there was just not the same kind of content. So it was an exciting thing to be a part of, even for my own sort of queer journey,
Is it interesting now comparing the landscape then to like web series now? Because there's so much queer content being made, and there's so much queer content being made on the web specifically. Like it's a whole new world out there.
I couldn't possibly keep up with it now. Like, I just couldn't. If I spent all day watching queer web series, I wouldn't do anything else with my life. Like, literally, I mean, there's just so much. And it's been fun to watch all of that emerge, like, since we started. Because, you know, I started going pretty quickly after Anyone But Me came out. I started going to LGBT events and meeting other people who were creating content. So it was fun to watch these creators emerging over the years. Yeah, and knowing them and knowing their work. And it's been really cool.
Even though we do have a lot more web series, a lot more representation than we have, it's still a pretty small minority that get to play a queer character as an actor, right? And even a smaller amount of those actors are queer people themselves. So can you talk to us a little bit about playing a queer woman as a queer woman yourself?
Oh, it was so exciting. It was a couple of things, actually. It was exciting. It was a little bit nerve-wracking, but I think that happened a little later when I started realizing how big the show became. And, you know, pretty much every actor worries about getting typecast as whatever the type is that they are when they hit the scene. Almost no actors don't worry about that. So, like, you know, there was the worry of, like, am I only going to get cast as queer characters now? And by the way, I wouldn't have said that. Queer is such a new word, like, in the way that we all use it. I would have said, like, I don't only want to play lesbian characters, is I think what I said. And certainly that was something, like, my parents brought up, and I'm not surprised because, you know, that's a whole other generation and they have other concerns. But it's not something that really was weighing heavily on me, though, because I felt so liberated playing a queer character. I felt so excited to be embodying this experience that I had had. My experience is different from Aster's for sure, but that, like, queer coming of age, it had happened. It had just happened to me. So, like, I'm a person who doesn't live quietly. Like, when I came out to my parents within, like, a very short period of time, I remember one day my mom went to church and she came back, and within the couple hours she was gone, I had, like, completely gayed up my room. Like there were pictures of, like, Angelina Jolie everywhere. There were, like, guest ads, like, with super hot models where, like, I'd cut out, like, the, you know, letters from magazines and written, like, desire on them and shit, you know, like, I really, like, just so ridiculous.
You had that Kiss poster, the two girls in, like, the
Obviously,
unrented t-shirts, right?
not only
We're similar eras. Everyone had that poster. Don't lie.
Everyone had that poster. Sorry, I just cut you off there, but, like, I had that poster hanging on my wall of my freshman dorm.
Of course you did.
Of course. And not only that, my sophomore roommates and we did, like, a reenactment of it.
Oh my God.
There are pictures somewhere of me and my sophomore roommate as the two girls in the white tank tops and the whole.
Oh my God.
You need to find these and send them to us.
They are buried. They're buried deep. I'm actually getting together with her later tonight. That's so funny. I'll ask her if she has them so I can maybe send them. Oh my God.
Were they up on MySpace? Like, how long ago were these?
This was 2004.
Yeah. I mean, let me tell you what, Nicole. I went to Mount Holyoke, which is a women's college. I don't know it. So I went to a women's college, mid-2000s. I think, like, 90% of the wall space of the college was just that poster. Everyone had that poster.
That does not surprise me at all. Yes. So that did not come until college, but I did have, like, just a ton of girls all over my wall. And I remember my mom walking in after church and just standing there for, like, what felt like forever in silence and just looking at the room and going, it's just really gay.
Did she know, or was that how you came out?
No, she knew. But I was so proud of it. I was like, Mom, come see my room. I redecorated. You know, like, so I was always so, like, this is who I am, and you're going to accept me for who I am. You know, like, I was very opinionated and passionate and stuff like that. So, like, when it came to playing a queer character, that felt like part of my own advocacy, not just for myself, but for the LGBT community, which I had already been doing up to that point. And it was fun playing Aster in that way because she was so out. In that way, she and I were so similar. And having like her dealing with a girlfriend who was not as comfortable in her own family and community situation and having to balance that, that was something that I went through, you know? And so being able to express that as an actor, it was very exciting.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Because I think this is also a story that you told during the LGBTQ actresses panel at ClexCon. I think we have a goal to bring up ClexCon as many times as possible in every episode from now until
on.
forever. Yeah. But so I think it was then you told a story about the experience of playing like in a gay relationship with another woman that you're acting opposite as a queer woman. Right. And like purposefully, like intentionally sitting down and having a conversation with her to be like, this is just acting.
Yep.
Like, I am not too into this. This is not, you know, like, and so I'm curious because it's something that I thought was really interesting because have you ever felt the need to have a conversation like that with a male co-star? Or do you imagine that straight co-stars ever feel the need to have that conversation?
I wish everybody could see my face right now because I'm having having like an aha moment over here. No, I don't think I have ever had that, like felt the need to have that conversation because I've taken for granted that we know we're acting, because acting like you're in love as straight people is something that people have been doing forever. And it's just taken for granted that, like, that's acting, you know? So I guess I haven't. That said, it would probably have behooved me several times to have had that conversation because I have run into some issues that way. Many more with men than ever with women. So that's all I'll say about that. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it also comes along with some stuff that we talked about in the podcast before, which is this stereotype of the predatory lesbian, right? And where you don't want to be perceived as too aggressive or...
Yeah!
And I don't know, it's like you try to be like, I'm not hitting on you, but then when you are hitting on someone, they don't know you're hitting on them, and then it just gets all kinds of confusing.
Yes,
Yeah.
it is confusing. It's like, and I totally have had that fear, and to the point where, like, I've taken it... It's been to my detriment, actually. Like, I've taken that fear into, like, being able to talk to girls at clubs and being able to, you know, like, the fear of, like, either they're straight or they're... No, actually, I don't usually have that fear, to be totally honest. I'm into pretty androgynous-looking girls, so it's pretty damn obvious. That hasn't been too much of a problem for me. It's a problem for my friends, but not for me. Being afraid that a girl has a girlfriend, because I, like, always assume that lesbians have girlfriends. You know, I'm like, oh, you probably have a girlfriend. You know, like, so I don't want to, like, screw that up. You know, I get very anxious and self-conscious when it comes to women, much more so than men in general. So it's not surprising to me that I carry that into acting as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I'm curious to see if that is going to come up more because I think it's something that, you know, we're seeing a lot more of as people pushing to have, you know, not just queer representation, but queers representing themselves, you know?
Yes.
And so when you said that, like, I don't imagine so many of the actresses that were at ClexCon that are in roles like this are straight. I don't imagine they ever have that conversation of being like, P.S., we're just acting, you know?
Oh, yeah.
Like, so I'm curious, like, as that starts to shift, as we start seeing, you know, more lesbian, bisexual people playing these roles, you know, it feels like there is. I think there's some sort of a double standard there that's really interesting. And I'm curious how much of that is, like, our own internalizing of some of those feelings. But also how much of that is just, like, a real thing that happens, you know, because I think it gets into the same question of, like, we did a whole episode on the issue of shipping actors together, like people who ship actors together, you know, and towing that line and where that sort of falls and how, what I think is really interesting about it, because in general, I tend to fall on the, like, don't ship real people together, that's weird kind of camp. But at the same time, what I think is really interesting is that there's a very noticeable difference in how that gets treated when people do it to straight people, like straight couples versus like gay relationships in the media, you know?
Oh,
so I think it's interesting.
Yeah.
There's a lot. I don't know if we have even time to like unpack all of it, but I remembered you telling that story, and I thought it was worth at least touching on, because I do think it says a lot about, you know, some of the things that we have sort of all internalized, you know?
Of course, especially, I want to say our generation. I mean, a lot of like the queer movies that were around, all, you know, 7 of them, and I'm including all of the letters in LGBTQ, etc. All 7 movies that were out at that point over history. It's like so many of them dealt with like tragic scenarios, and often of like, you know, the queer character having an interaction, like having a romantic or sexual interaction with someone who then decides to reject their own queerness and is like, I'm straight and you're weird. And so like there is, I think, that ingrained fear that actually the first girl I ever hooked up with, like, got a boyfriend 2 weeks later. Easily.
Oh, no.
Like, and we hooked up several times. Like, we hooked up like 3 weekends in a row. My mom's like, you're sleeping at Rachel's house a lot. I was like, no, this is fine. I'm sure, I don't know what she would say about it now, but I think it probably was a situation where like it was a little overwhelming for her. And she was like, nope. Gotta get a boyfriend, you know? And I was like, okay, you know? So I'm sure that like somehow that shaped the way that I approached women who I didn't know for 100% certain were queer.
So I think we're talking a lot about, you know, queer representation and queer media and things like that. You know, for a podcast called Let's Hang Out, we always try to say we're the lesbians, but it's about just, you know, broader queer experiences in general. But let's focus in for a little bit on bisexual representation. Because I think, you know, we're seeing a lot more representation of queer stories, but bisexual representation is still a really small part of that. Why do you think that's the case? Why do you think there's still so little of specifically bi stories?
Oh man, I could write a book on this. I will do my best to keep this succinct. And you know, these are all, everything that I'm about to say is just theories that have come about because I've spent an inordinate amount of time thinking about this subject. Mm-hmm. So I think, well, first of all, just kind of on the surface of this before going deeper, in terms of representation in the media and specifically, you know, characters in narrative situations, you know, so like TV shows, movies, etc., being bi, part of why we're not seeing that is because the bisexual community has not had their like trans community moment. You know, Caitlyn Jenner was, for better or for worse, was like the tipping point for the trans community in terms of visibility, in terms of greater media and nationally starting to cover the trans people and try to understand trans people and educate themselves on trans people. And then more and more trans people started coming out. And then we got transparent. You know, it's got to start somewhere. And so because we haven't had our like, I hate to say we haven't had our Caitlyn Jenner. That is the worst fucking thing in the world. But like, do you know what I mean? Like, we haven't had our person yet who, you know, like if Michelle Obama were suddenly like, you know what, I'm bisexual, it'd be like, we'd start seeing representation of bisexual people more. Do you know what I mean? Like, we just haven't had that yet. So that's why I don't think characters are being written, is because we haven't had enough high profile people coming out and being really super, super freaking loud about it. The way that the trans community has done so beautifully, because they have not they've been very loud about it. They've not let anybody forget that they're there, and they have really done an excellent job of organizing and being vocal.
Do you think having people like Stephanie Beatrice and Sarah Ramirez, and who are starting to be more vocal, do you think that's going to start maybe shifting the tide?
Yes. But, I mean, you also have, you know, Evan Rachel Wood. And, I mean, you have people who are, quote unquote, you know, bigger stars than the two of them who are coming out, to take nothing away from the two of those actresses, obviously. But they're not on the level of, like what Caitlyn Jenner was when Caitlyn Jenner was Bruce Jenner to everybody else, a national hero. And so the fact that the world had to come around and see her as she always saw herself,
Yeah.
that was huge. It was bigger than just, you know, an actor, right? In a way, if that makes sense. Like, it was what Caitlyn Jenner as Bruce stood for in that time. And I also think part of it was that, you know, Caitlyn Jenner was of that generation. It made it so that it wasn't just like a millennial thing. It became an issue that everyone under the age of, you know, 75 was talking about.
It's funny, I almost wonder if it was less of a millennial thing, because I think Caitlyn Jenner, I almost feel like everyone's sort of like a little older than our generation. Like, she was huge.
Yes.
She was huge.
Huge.
You know, and I almost feel like our generation and younger, like, didn't quite have that context necessarily of like how big of a deal she was to that generation, like to our parents' generation. Because I think she wasn't as prominent of a figure anymore by that point. Like, it, you know, the way that, yeah, who would occupy a similar space in that sort of like societal context?
Michael Phelps, basically, in like 40 years.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Sure. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And like, so it's hard to imagine who that would be in, you know, for their generation if they came out as bisexual. I don't know, because I'm not in their generation. So I'm not sure what would influence. But I do think that the generational thing had a lot to do with that, too. There's that. There's also something that came up actually at Clexicon. We're going to mention Clexicon a lot, I think, forever. But so one of the things that came up in just a private conversation I was having with somebody is that I've started to think that part of why bisexuality hasn't had its moment and gets covered up a lot is even just in the name. We don't have another name that doesn't have the word sex in it. We don't have gay, we don't have lesbian, we don't have trans, we have bi, I guess, but transgender's gender, right? I mean, we don't, queer is queer.
Yeah.
But ours is bisexual. It is explicit in its name, right? And I think that does subconsciously influence people's comfort or in this case, discomfort with it, and really exposes or like feeds these myths about it. Bisexual people being just like super horny or super like unable to be satisfied or, you know, always wanting more or, you know, promiscuous and all of those things. Like, it's in the actual name is the word sex, and we don't get the benefit of like a nickname, you know, or like a whatever.
No, but, and it's so true because there's so much too about, I mean, even just within like the gay community in general, like it's so common for it to become like a hypersexualized thing when it doesn't need to be at all. You know, so it's the same issue that people are running into on YouTube with having like any sort of queer gay content at all get demonetized because they're like, it's inappropriate, you know. People who have said like, if you tag, just saw something on Twitter where someone had a book of poems and they put it up on YouTube under the LGBT category, and LGBT is a subsection of erotica. Like,
No.
Which just seems insane, right? Like, it's insane. It is harder for bisexual people to break free of that. I mean, you don't hear a lot of lesbians going around saying, like, as a proud homosexual woman, you know, like, you just...
Well, I don't know about you.
I'm gonna start and see what happens.
Actually,
you
even
know,
still,
I'll
I would just say
report
I'm a big
back.
homo. I wouldn't say the sexual part.
Yeah.
But like, how weird would that feel to be like, I am homosexual? Like you know, like no one says that, you know? I don't mind saying bisexual, but even when I say it, it has taken me a long time to embrace that word, even though the label has always felt so very dear and wonderful and right for me. The actual word and being vocal about the word took me a while to get comfortable with. And, you know, it's only now in like being an adult and looking at that and realizing like, oh, that's because I was like I was saying sex. I was in and me and talking about what I prefer sexually, explicitly, you know? So I think like...
Which is not generally what you start conversations
Not
with.
usually what you do, you know? Like on the internet where your family is, you know? Like...
This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. And as we head into Thanksgiving time, I want to start by thanking my wife, Kelsey, who has not only listened to just about every episode of this podcast for 8 seasons now, but who also is the only reason I'm able to make time to record it every week. She takes the kids, gets them dinner, and gets them ready for bed just so that Ellie and I can come on and yell about gay things into each other's faces for an hour. So here's a reminder to send some thanks to the people you're grateful for in your life, including yourself. I've been in therapy for a long time now, and one thing that's so important about therapy is how it teaches you to be more intentional. And being intentional about gratitude and how to show that to the people you appreciate is just one of the many benefits that I've gotten from therapy over the years. If you've been thinking of starting therapy, consider giving BetterHelp a try. I know how hard it can be to find time for regular therapy, and BetterHelp is designed to be flexible and convenient for your schedule. You can fill out a brief questionnaire to get matched with a licensed therapist, and you can switch therapists at any time for no additional charge. If you want to start being more intentional about gratitude in your life, visit betterhelp.com/leshangout today to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/leshangout.
Let's hang out.
This episode is brought to you by Progressive Insurance. Do you ever find yourself playing the budgeting game? Shifting a little money here, a little there, and hoping it all works out? Well, with the Name Your Price tool from Progressive, you can be a better budgeter and potentially lower your insurance bill too. You tell Progressive what you want to pay for car insurance, and they'll help you find options within your budget. Try it today at Progressive.com. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and Affiliates. Price and coverage match limited by state law. Not available in all states. For many businesses, the holiday season can be both an exciting and stressful time. With so many balls in the air, one thing you definitely want to know you can rely on is how you're selling your products. And with Shopify, you can rest easy knowing it's the home of the #1 checkout on the planet. Nobody does selling better than Shopify, and when it comes to successful brands like Aloe, Allbirds, or Skims, an often overlooked secret is all the things that go on behind the scenes that make selling, and for shoppers, buying, simple. For millions of businesses, if you take a peek behind that curtain, you'll see that Shopify is what makes it all possible. Shop Pay boosts conversions up to 50%, so that's more happy customers and way more sales going. It's true all the time, but especially this time of year, your commerce platform better be ready to sell wherever your customers are scrolling or strolling, on the web, in your store, in their feed, and everywhere in between. Businesses that sell more sell on Shopify. Upgrade your business and get the same checkout we use for Realm merch with Shopify. Sign up for your $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/realm, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/realm to upgrade your selling today. Shopify.com/realm.
With something like 5 million podcasts, finding a really good one can take a ton of time. So let me recommend one. It's called Something You Should Know. I'm the host, Mike Carruthers, and in each episode, we discuss topics that can be really helpful, like how to read people better, the psychology of crowds, or fun things like the story of Legos, or why you probably wouldn't be here if it weren't for horses. Something You Should Know is the name of it, wherever you get your podcasts.
I think that actually the name is part of it. I think there's so many reasons, guys, but like 2 more quickly, and then I'll wrap this part out. But I think another reason is that inherently bisexuality calls into question the practice of monogamy. And not because all bisexual people are non-monogamous, because that is not true. Not all bisexual people are polyamorous. Not all bisexual people can't be faithful. There are plenty of bisexual people who are monogamous and faithful, and that is all very true. However, we like to think in our puritanical culture that when one gets married, one is never attracted to anybody else in their, it doesn't matter what their, sexuality is. But like, if you're straight and you're married, you only have eyes for your spouse, right? If you're gay and you're married, you only have eyes for your spouse.
As we know is the case for all straight married people.
All straight married people. That's why there's no divorce, But like, unfortunately, that lie that has been perpetuated has caused obviously a huge number of problems. And I think makes for massive breakdown in communication between partners of any gender and sexuality. But insofar as bisexuality is concerned, I think people look at it and go, how could that be true? Because if I'm with you and I'm a man, then you're always going to be attracted to other women. And if I'm a woman and I'm with you, you're always going to be attracted to men because I'm not that. And you can kind of lie to yourself if, you're with somebody who is just straight or gay and be like, well, I'm going to satisfy everything they need. But like with bi people, there's that fear. There's a really big fear. And I'm not going to say that fear is wrong in the sense that we're all attracted to other people. It's just but we all have personal agency as to whether we act on that, right? That is what makes me so pissed off is I'm like, guys, everyone is attracted to other people when they're with their partner. That's natural. That's human. It is how you communicate about it. And it is what you do or don't do about it. It's being a good person. Yeah.
It's so funny to me, though, that that's always been, like, such a big thing. And I've just never understood, like, you're straight, right? And it's like, okay, you're a straight dude, you get married to your wife and whatever. And it's like, your wife's a brunette, I don't know. I just feel like the idea that someone would ever be like, so wait, but aren't you also attracted to blondes? Are you going to need to date a blonde now, too? Like... it just seems ridiculous.
Well, yes.
Right?
Okay, I would like to say something, though, like from a lesbian perspective who pretty much exclusively dates bisexual women. Okay. I've gotten to a point where I got over all of my insecurities, but when I didn't, it was really hard. Like you're saying, like that fear is real, but that doesn't necessarily mean that bisexuality is not real. Like,
yes,
it almost is more real because bisexuality is real, if that makes sense.
Yes. Oh, that's so true. The fear is more real because bisexuality is real. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. And it's not like, it doesn't do anybody any good to like discount the fears of their partners, right? I mean, like we all have our fears, and this is why everything for me comes back to communication and honesty, and communication and honesty with partners, like to the point where you think like you feel nauseous because you're being so damn honest. Like it's so important because like you don't want your partner to be afraid, and it's not necessarily their fault that they fear you being attracted to somebody that is a different gender than you are. That it is something that physically you don't have. Of course that could feel threatening. I understand that. It's when the knee-jerk reaction to that is to say, is to become like uber possessive, or start this like, I know you're going to leave me for a guy. I know you're going to leave me for a guy, versus like having these conversations that are difficult, but where like the person who's bi feels like seen and understood. And the partner who is straight or gay also feels seen and understood. We need to have like a much more frank conversation about this in general, but certainly between partners.
I'm curious also, especially in the media, in terms of like seeing characters that are bi. There's a tendency, for people in general, but I also think it happens a lot, like, and perhaps especially like within the queer community, that we need to like slap a label on everything right away, And so what I was thinking about is like, when, I don't know if you watch Winona Earp, but when Waverly's character in the first season, who is dating a guy, has always dated guys, and breaks up with him and starts dating Nicole Haught's character, that I feel like there was like this immediate knee-jerk thing to be like, she's a lesbian now. It kind of created this whole issue for a while in terms of like, well, how does she identify? What do we call her? Do the bis get her, or do lesbians get her? And there's like this like a tug of war, like pulling her one way or the other. But I'm curious, like, especially in TV shows, like, there's such a desire for us to use media as a way to fit people into boxes. You want the story, like, here's the story that we're telling. And I think especially with with characters coming out and stuff like that, that is what we're used to seeing on TV, you know, is like, I was straight, now I'm gay. And I feel like that loses bisexuality in there, you know, like it doesn't fit like as neat of a narrative of like point A, point B.
Yes, absolutely. And it's been like a huge frustration to me for a long time watching that happen, because there are just so many examples you can think of like characters that either like dabble with someone of the same sex and then like, oh, that wasn't for me, you know, whatever it was. And sort of like, it's like it never happened. Or then suddenly, yeah, they're just suddenly gay. And you even see that in like, this drives me nuts, in like tabloids. You see that actually? Because there's been, you know, these long time discussions about like, is Tom Cruise gay? Is Will Smith actually gay? Is that what Scientology is holding over their heads? You know, like all these like things like, and they have these conversations. It makes me nuts because I'm like, guys, like there's a middle ground. Maybe they're bi. Maybe Tom Cruise actually likes women and men, and that's possible, you know. And it's especially of course bad with men, because men are only allowed to be straight or gay apparently, and that makes me furious. But anyway, you see it all over the place. Is this like, are they secretly gay? What are you talking about? Like, that's not how sexuality works. Like,
it's like, yeah, not only is there a middle ground, there's also like a whole like plethora of other possible sexual identities to choose from that are not even just gay, straight, or bi. Like,
yes, there's a spectrum. It's like
there's tons.
People are so much more complicated and colorful than we allow them to be, because we need to fit them into these boxes so we can understand them and so that we don't feel threatened by them ultimately, right? So that's really what it comes down to. And like, it really bugs me when that happens on TV. It happens so often.
What I also want to talk about is, while we talk about, you know, with having that middle ground identity, and is bisexuality real, and how does it fit into like the queer community in a general sense and stuff like that. Something else that we talked about at Klexicon, get our Klexicon mention in, is this idea of like fitting into the mold that the media creates for us, you know, and looking a certain way. So, not to put you on the spot or anything, but can we for a hot second discuss this vaguely newish but super cute, super queer haircut that I've got going on?
Yes, we can.
How conscious of a choice was that?
Well, it was maybe a half-conscious choice. No, well, first of all, what's funny is I literally just got it trimmed today, so it looks like super gay at this moment, because it is very short to all of you who can't see it. It's like Michelle Williams at Michelle Williams' shortest short. It's very short.
For those of you who can't see Nicole right now, it's on point.
Thank you. You know, oh God, if we really go back in the annals of Facebook, we can find some rather embarrassing pictures of me with a faux hawk circa 2000.
Yes, let's please.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Circa like 2005. It was not my best look, but that was a very conscious, like, I have to express my queerness haircut. I absolutely, I was in college. I was and I had a boyfriend when I did it. And actually, and I love you, Nate, so much. So please, if you're listening to this, know that I forgive you and you're wonderful. It's fine. But my boyfriend at the time was very uncomfortable with it. And it was the last straw. I mean, we had other things going on, but it was the last straw. Like, when I cut my hair, we broke up.
Wow.
So, yeah. And he's later, again, he's one of my dearest friends that has later, like, been so wonderfully apologetic and adorable about it. So, like, it's whatever. We're all young and stupid. It's fine. So, like, and I get it. I get that he felt threatened by that because, frankly, like, it was a very conscious choice to express my queerness. And I'm sure that, like, as a straight 20-year-old guy, he did not know what the hell to do with that. And I don't blame him, like yeah. But anyway, I needed to do that for myself at that time. And also I was like, well, I'm going to be an actress. So I'm going to have to grow my hair out and have it be like long and feminine and whatever by the time that I graduate. So this is a perfect time to do it, So that's kind of the thought that I had all through the past like 10 years was like, okay, I have to look a certain way for Hollywood, like it's that whole actor game. It sucks. And then this past year, I just started like coming into my own in a new way and being more comfortable with myself. And I have been talking more about my bi identity publicly. So I'm sure that like this is probably linked to it. But the choice to cut my hair was because I felt like I wasn't connected to that version of myself anymore that had long hair. I felt like it was younger and it was trying to be something that I wasn't. And this feels more mature and more expressive and yes, like edgier and yes, more overtly queer, Like it was a fun thing because right after I got my hair cut, someone came up to me after a show and we were talking and can't remember how like LGBT stuff came up and I was like, oh, well, yeah, I'm bi. And she goes, oh, no, I mean, I figured you were queer. I was like, wow.
Obviously.
And I was like, oh, wow, people don't ever say that to me. Like, so I had my first moment of like, oh, my God, I guess I'm looking on the outside a little bit more how I feel on the inside, So it was only half conscious, but it certainly played into it.
It's funny. I actually just had a conversation I have a really good friend who's getting married next year. Is, kind of doing the whole like wedding dress stuff. And she was asking me, I had longer hair and wore a dress at my wedding. And she was asking me like, if you did it again, would you wear a dress again? Because I don't wear dresses at this point in my life, like I'm kind of just over the whole trying to make that work for me thing. And I was like, yeah, I probably would. Like there were very conscious reasons that I chose and wanted specifically to wear a dress and have long hair at my wedding. Like it felt you are constantly being interpreted by the people around you. And I think for me, part of that was that it was very important to me that our wedding be a representation of both of us as women getting married, like I didn't want to have the, like which one of you is the guy? I'm like, yeah, neither one of us is the guy. Like I happen to be someone who feels more comfortable and dresses more androgynously in a general sense, but like it was really important to make sure that it was clear what people were celebrating with us. And so I'm curious, especially because I think it's something that, you did talk about as well as like, as someone who is married to a guy, and how I know that's like a whole minefield for bisexual women to navigate. If you're a bisexual who's in a relationship with a dude, we have a tendency to just like erase all of that queerness, it gets lost in the mix somewhere. Like there's no room for that. So I was just curious how
it links in with the stuff you were talking about with monogamy. It's like, well, whoever you end up with, that's your sexuality because like this is the only person you've ever loved or been attracted to in your whole life. Like, no.
Yes, no, exactly. And like, I was totally going to bring up the married to a guy thing. Like, I'm sure that partly went into like the subconscious decision to cut my hair because I enter queer spaces and people don't question me, you know? And like, I can be married to a guy and still be somewhat obviously queer, you know? And I like that. And I also like messing with people's expectations of what you're supposed to look like when you're married to a guy. Like, because that's the other thing is like, and this is part of the whole evolution into like more self-expression and things. Like, I've always had these like two sides of me that I can be like very feminine at times and love wearing dresses, and like if you see my wedding pictures, they are about as feminine as you could possibly
send us the wedding
imagine.
Pictures.
I will. They look like basically Lord of the Rings, but anyway, like that's like what it looks like. I had extensions like down to my butt, like it with like braids and like anyway, whatever. And I love that stuff. And actually, what's funny is the haircut in some ways has made me feel more feminine because like when I put on makeup and stuff, I feel like Audrey Hepburn, you know, like it's bringing out this other feminine side that I'm loving. But like I've also had the side that, you know, I will walk down the street with like a baseball cap and like a t-shirt and whatever, lacrosse shorts and sneakers and like, you know, and that's also who I am too. And I think for a long time, those two sides felt like they were at odds with each other. And I worried about walking into different spaces, be they straight spaces or queer spaces, and like accurately representing myself in what I was wearing. And now I'm just like, well, screw it. Some days I feel like wearing dresses and looking super femme, and other days I look a lot more queer, and it's all good. And luckily I'm with a partner who is like 1,000% on board with all of that. So it doesn't matter.
And also looking femme does not necessarily mean not queer.
Yes. That's yes.
I got you.
I was just about to say, Ellie. I was actually gonna ask you about that. I'm sure that's very frustrating for you.
Yes. No, nobody ever thinks that I'm gay. Like, ever. I swear to God, sometimes I say, like, try to be the gayest possible. Like, I started a freaking lesbian podcast so people would know that I was a lesbian.
Yeah, I was going to say, people don't know you're gay until you open your mouth. I mean, what?
Yeah, until I'm like, people are like, what do you do? I'm like, I'm a professional lesbian.
Oh my God, that's so funny. I call myself a professional queer person.
Yes.
We need new business cards.
Ellie Brigida, professional lesbian. It definitely is. Yeah. That we've talked about that many, many times. In a similar way to you, Nicole, I've gotten to a place where I'm like, this is how I like looking. And so whatever anyone wants to think about that is fine. But like, I feel most comfortable with long hair and makeup and sometimes dresses, sometimes not, you know, so. Yeah. Sure.
Yeah. And like the thing is, it's also like, who knows, you know, down the line. That's the other thing is like, I'm not never going to grow my hair long again. I'm probably going to have long hair again at some point. I just don't feel it right now. I don't know.
And you look
This is
great.
Just what I want to be doing. Oh, thank you.
You're welcome. I wanted to ask one more question before we go into our final segment. Because I think a main point of this episode is that as members of the LGBTQ community, we want to be accepting of every single person under that umbrella. How do you think we as a community can be that support system for other people who don't identify in the same way that we do? Because, like, there's a lot of internal fighting between in-group fighting, you know, or lesbians who are scared of bisexual women, or, you know, like, so how do you think we can be better as a community about those things?
I totally get what you're saying. That's what I thought you were asking. Yeah, I think about this a lot. I think, first of all, this speaks to, like, a broader issue happening right now, which is within like the liberal community, straight, gay, or otherwise, like that we are doing a lot of nitpicking with one another and not enough recognizing that we're actually all allies and trying to be each other's allies, and knowing that, you know, people take time and need space to be educated and educate themselves on things. You know, so I think that within the queer community, we would be very wise to just know that because someone else identifies as queer doesn't mean that they understand us or we understand them, and that we need to work harder to do that and be less judgmental all around of them, of their lack of understanding of us, of all of it, you know. So I'll start off by saying that. But I think, you know, certainly when it comes to bisexual people, I think we need to be more part of the conversation. You know, I think I want people to ask us questions. You know, I want people to express like real fears and biases that they've had, because if everyone just pretends that they're fine with everything, that's not actually going to get better, you know? And I also would ask that people reflect on like the fact that, you know, when like before Stonewall, and really, during Stonewall, lesbians and gays were very separate. Gay men were like, we don't want lesbians to be part of our movement. You know, there was a huge amount of internal bias and things that were happening there. And now look at it, you know, it's so different. And I would just hope that that same lesson can be applied to bisexual people as it has been to trans people, because it was not too long ago that a whole lot of LGB whatever people were like, no, trans is not included. It's a gender expression, not a sexual orientation, and therefore shouldn't be under our umbrella. I mean, people made that case a lot and publicly.
To which we say, fuck all
Yes. To which we say, can we not be a minority that has asked for inclusion forever and then exclude people within our own community? Please, come on. Yeah. The irony is, it's ridiculous. So I think that that's part of it. And like, when it comes to bisexuality, just to acknowledge that it's real and that nobody is trying to harm you by being bisexual. No one is doing it to you. You know, it's like, it's just who we are, you know, and we're just trying to be like everyone else, you know, exist and be happy and, you know, connect with other people who are also queer.
I think that's a beautiful way to put it.
Gay men. What a way to...
Did you say gay men?
That, huh? I did.
All right.
I thought that's what you said.
All right. I think we need to go into our next section, which is our Q and gay.
Yes!
Q and gay.
Cool.
I'm so ready.
Q and gay.
For anyone who hasn't listened to the podcast, we have some questions we're going to ask Nicole, and then we want to hear your answers as well. So we will take turns. Ellie, why don't you
All right. So, out of these options, who is your favorite TV bisexual? Waverly Earp, Callie Torres, Rosa Diaz, or Sarah Lance?
Rosa Diaz.
Great choice.
Okay, question 2, and we might have covered this a little bit in detail already, but we'll also see what everyone else thinks. Short hair or long hair?
In general?
In general.
Oh, that's so sad. Both. I can't. I'm sorry, both. I'm going to be that bisexual about it. Both.
Okay, we'll add the both. We'll add the both option
category,
for you. How's that?
All right, next is, who out of all these people is your number one bisexual celebrity crush? And I think I already know the answer, but Angelina Jolie, Billie Joe Armstrong, Jessie J, or David Bowie?
Oh, I mean Angelina Jolie.
I knew.
But you know, though, David Bowie would be a real close second.
Okay.
Like real close. Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay, question 4. If you could pick one of these movies that should have been gay, which one would it be? Bridesmaids, Legally Blonde, Thelma and Louise, or Mean Girls?
I almost have to say Mean Girls. I don't know why.
I so wish we had more time to get into who you would see shipping together on that.
Oh my God, right?
This is a preliminary question for what should have been gay. Is Nicole Pacent going to be on?
Yeah. Oh yeah. There you go.
Oh
my God.
Yes.
Yes.
All right. Our final question is, what is your favorite queer movie out of these 4? And I'm
very
hoping
deliberate
you've seen
options,
them.
huh?
You have to have seen them. Okay. Imagine Me and You, But I'm a Cheerleader, Debs, or Carol.
Okay, I kind of want to see Imagine Me and You because it's so damn cute. And it gives me all the warm feels. Whereas Carol is like terrifying in some ways, but like, but simultaneously is such a beautiful movie, and I love both of those actresses. So damn it! Nah, I'm going Imagine Me and You. Never mind, it's fine.
Yes,
there has to be a winner.
Yes, and none of them are my favorite.
Oh, what is your favorite?
If These Walls Could Talk Too.
Nice.
That ages me, people. That ages me. That's fine.
It's a throwback. It's a throwback.
I haven't
for sure.
seen it, so I'm sorry.
Oh, it's so cute. You should see it.
I will see it. I will watch it now.
I think it's on our essentials list, so don't worry about it. We'll get there.
All right. And to our listeners, remember you can give us your own answers to this episode's Q&A questions on our Twitter at Les Hangout Pod.
We want to say thank you again, Nicole, for joining us. It has been such a pleasure having you on. I wish we had another hour.
Thank you so much.
I was going to say the same thing. I'm so sad that we have to end the conversation. I feel like we could easily talk for another hour. Oh my God.
I mean, we'll just have to have you on again.
You took the words out of my mouth. Yes, thank you guys so much for asking me. This has been awesome. I knew it would be. Thank you. I love what you guys do. Keep doing it.
Oh, thank you. And where can people find you and all the things that you're doing?
You guys can find me on Twitter at Nicole Pacent. I am tweeting more these days. I'm still trying. Guys, I'm still trying. I'm trying to be better about
Twitter
this in the social
hard.
Media. It's so hard to keep up with, but I am trying. So at Nicole Pacent, also at Nicole Pacent on Instagram, Facebook fan page, which I interact with less, but you can find some really, really fun videos and things on there. Nicole Pacent Actor, facebook.com/Nicole Pacent Actor. I have a show on YouTube. It's called Only Us, and you can find it at youtube.com/Nicole Pacent. I talk about a lot of queer stuff, but moreover, it's really just like people stuff and realizing that, you know, we are all going through things and we are not alone in that, and that we need to connect with one another. So I talk about queer stuff, I talk about mental health stuff, talk about lady issues. You can find me on there. Let's see, what else? Oh, I have a podcast coming out soon. Yay! I don't have the release date, but I have a recording date, which is fantastic. It is tentatively titled Coming Out with Lauren and Nicole, and it's all going to be stories of coming out. We are really, really, really excited about this. Look for that early summer of this year. So there we go. And I have a short film dropping July 4th, which I will publicize. And if you are in the LA area, I am in 2 plays, one part of the Hollywood Fringe Festival in June, and the other one that I am also co-producing in September. So there you go.
We should have just asked, what aren't you doing these days? I know. I might have been shorter.
Yeah, I'm a Jane of all trades. I don't know. I do a lot of stuff.
Yeah, so Jane of all trades.
The answer is you can find Nicole everywhere doing everything. Literally all the things.
It's really exhausting and I forget to eat. So I have to remind myself to do that. Yeah.
There you go.
Thank you guys so much.
All right. And you can find us on Instagram and Facebook at Les Hangout Pod.
You can email us at leshangoutpod@gmail.com.
Or you can check out our website at leshangoutpod.com.
If you want to help support the podcast, the easiest free thing you can do is listen to us on Radio Public. We get paid listens. All you have to do is listen to the podcast. You can find that at bit.ly/leslisten.
And if you want to support us financially, you can go to our Patreon, which is at patreon.com/leshangout. And you can be a part of our Les Essentials viewing parties, get early drinking game rules, and some cool behind-the-scenes blooper reels. As we know, Pride Month is right around the corner, and we've got some new Pride designs up in our Les Hangout merchandise shop, so you guys can rock all your lesbian swag.
And you should definitely get them. Send us pictures of you wearing them at Pride parades, or if you're doing things with your friends. We would love to see you guys wearing them. So get those. You can find them at our store, which is at bit.ly/lesshop.
And if you want to find us individually, you can find me at Ellie Brigida on Instagram and Twitter.
And you can find me at LSH Foster on also now Instagram and Twitter. So
she's in the new age, people.
I gave in. I gave in, you guys. So there you go. You can follow me on Instagram or on Twitter.
Yet again, thank you so much, Nicole.
Thank you.
This has been amazing.
This has been amazing. Wonderful. I wish I could stay here all night and talk to you guys. That's been great. Thank you so much. This is awesome. Till next time.
And with that, I'm Ellie.
And I'm Lee.
And I'm Nicole.
And let's hang out again soon.
Let's hang out.
Hi, I'm Laura Cathcart Robbins, and I am the host and creator of the podcast Only One in the Room. Every week, my co-host Scott Slaughter and I invite you to join us and lose yourself in someone's incredible Only One story. We talk to real people dealing with issues like infertility, the death of a loved one, human trafficking, and women who, fake it. Oh, and we want to be fair, so we talk to celebrities too. Emmy winners like actor John Cryer, supermodels like Amber Valletta, and rock stars like Ryan Dusick. Everyone is invited to share their Only One story with our listeners. With 21 seasons and counting, we guarantee you that Only One in the Room has a story that you'll connect with. This podcast is for anyone who has ever felt alone in a room full of people, which is to say that this podcast is for everyone. Download Only One in the Room on Apple or Spotify today.